So we start off with two intruders here in Chocolate Town, and my first thought was like, oh no, it's the Blackbeard pirates coming to steal Big Mom's poneglyphs. You do see the people of the town running away from them, so whoever the intruders are, they must have some degree of intimidation. It can't be the Vinsmokes, because we know what kind of shoes the Vinsmokes wear. So yeah, I hope it's maybe like Lafitte with Van Ogre. I think that would be great. And then also, Blackbeard knows that Big Mom isn't currently in Whole Cake Island, because he read the news about her chasing Luffy. So it'd be a really good idea right now to send in people to get those poneglyph rubbings. And maybe these intruders will force Katakuri to show himself. Then again, I also read a really good theory on Reddit. This is by Lightix Predictions, and he says that he suspects that the intruders are actually Crocodile and Das Bones. That would be amazing. That would be awesome if that were the case. We got some pretty good news during the week, which is that the One Piece anime will be returning after the Toei hacking incident. So episode 1014 will be airing next weekend, and judging from the preview, it'll be about Marco helping Zoro get to the rooftop, but then also it's when Marco gets a flashback and thinks back about how Ace wanted to go to Wano, and sort of like Whitebeard's reasoning for why they didn't go to Wano, even after learning that Odin had died. And honestly, I think that the Toei hacking incident ended up being a blessing in disguise, because the episodes that are coming up next are the rooftop fight. So they've been off the air for a while, so Toei has probably been investing a lot of time and effort into these upcoming episodes to make sure that they look even better, that if they had come out back to back with a rushed schedule. I like how the chapter opens up with Luffy just sort of bouncing on the rubbery ground that he's created with his awakening. And Oda brings up a point here through Luffy that I brought up like the first time like I saw the awakening, which is that like, what are Luffy's Gear 5th attacks going to be called now? Because he questions like Gum Gum, but it's not the Gum Gum fruit anymore. It's the Nika Nika fruit, the human fruit model Nika. So I feel like Luffy's questioning could just be Oda kind of beginning to introduce a name change in the Gear 5 attacks. But I feel like for that to happen, somebody actually needs to reveal to Luffy that he didn't really eat the Gum Gum fruit. We get this sort of internal monologue with Tsunisha, and I think it accomplishes two purposes. One is, due to the framing, we get a reminder of Mount Fuji, which I think is the only unexplored place left in Wano. So Oda has to do something with this mountain. We have to learn more about it, and so I'm guessing this is where the road poneglyph is going to be. And then the other thing that Tsunisha's dialogue sort of helps us with is that if you pair it with Kaido's question, Oda offers us a pretty clear distinction between Luffy and Joyboy's identity. So Joyboy and Luffy are two completely different people. And we know this because Tsunisha says, like, this kind of feels like Joyboy. It reminds me of Joyboy. And I feel that we should put our faith in this boy. But this boy is not Joyboy himself. This boy is Monkey D. Luffy, the person who will surpass Kaido and will become King of the Pirates. Pretty sure that the title of King of the Pirates wasn't even a thing back when Joyboy was alive. So again, this kind of serves to differentiate Luffy's identity to Joyboy's identity and to Nika's identity. And then Kaido's dialogue when he's explaining what awakening actually is to Luffy, to me, it pretty much confirms that Kaido is also awakened and that he hasn't used awakening yet. How would he know this much about awakening if he's not awakened himself, right? Like, he's teaching Luffy about awakening because he knows what awakening is and what that's been for him. And then also, Kaido, just like Luffy, is also a mythical type Zoan, so he would know. So in the official translation, Kaido says that awakening is what happens when your mind and body catch up to your powers. And those are certainly ridiculous powers. So I think this kind of explains why not everybody can awaken their devil fruit. Because in order to awaken a devil fruit, your mind and body have to be in sync with each other and have to be able to sort of be acknowledged by the fruit's power, by the fruit's will. It's been established before that Zoans have a will of their own. So it's almost as if you need to earn the awakening. So the devil fruit has to find your mind and body worthy. You have to meet the fruit's expectations in order to get there. So maybe that's why the power of the Gomu Gomu no Mi hasn't been awakened in a very long time. Because maybe there were people who actually ate the fruit, but because their mind and body didn't meet the expectations of the will of the fruit, maybe the fruit never allowed them to awaken that power. Anyway, Luffy rushes towards Kaido, and Kaido stops him with Kundali Meteor Shower or Kundali Dragon Swarm, which we've seen him use before. It's kind of like a Gatling attack of his that's imbued with Conqueror's Haki. And then there's one moment where you see Luffy getting hit with the club and his face is completely deformed, stretched out to sort of accommodate for the spikes. And he's like spikes coming out of his head. And then Luffy counters with a Conqueror's Haki Gatling of his own, and you see Kaido's skin stretching out from the back, kind of like as if it were rubber, which is sort of a continuation of the ending of last chapter, where we saw Luffy's fist stretch out Kaido's skull in the back. And again, I think it's important to note that Luffy's Gatling attack has no name. Like, these are no-named attacks from Luffy, and Kaido hasn't shown awakening. So what I can foresee happening is that Kaido is going to show us his awakening, his Devil Fruit awakening, and then Luffy is actually going to come up with a name for these Gear 5 attacks. Proper names for these attacks. Because it's a shonen trope. It's part of the shonen genre for the protagonist to have named attacks. So I can definitely see a moment in the future where Luffy's all excited and he's like, okay, I figured it out. I know what names I'm going to be using for these attacks. And he just starts spamming them, like one right after the other. And then he finally ends up taking down Kaido with a Gear 5th properly named attack that relates to Joyboy and Nika. Luffy starts coughing because the smoke of the fire down below starts hitting the rooftop, and then Kaido tries to plant some doubt in him, but then Luffy has a pretty Luffy response. Because deep down Luffy knows that he can't do everything himself, so he's like, I've entrusted that to my friends. I can't do everything. Like, I'm limited. I can't take care of the fire, but I'll tell you what I can do. I can kick your butt, Kaido. Then Kaido sends out some wind slashes, and Luffy just kind of pulls his legs up to avoid them. And what's interesting to me is that these are the type of slashes that Kaido uses when he's in his full Zoan form. So it seems like he's combining his elemental stuff with his Kanabo, with his hybrid form. We go to the life floor for the One Piece equivalent of the "this is fine" meme. Zeus says that he can't do anything about it. Chopper runs into Nami. He says he can't find any other Straw Hats. And then we find out that Beppo appears to be having the same problem that Chopper was having in Alabasta, which is that because of their thick fur that is meant for cold weather, they just can't take the heat. And so we go on to get like a bunch of different panels of different characters just stressing the fact that they're trapped, that this fire is going to consume everything, and that they need to find a way out. But then even if we look at the Sanji panel with Chuji and Osome, right, it turns out that even if you get to the exits, it doesn't even matter. Because even if they manage to take care of the fire, this island is still going to drop. Now, at this point in the story, I believe most of the numbers have already been defeated. I think the only ones left standing right now are Fuga, who's an ally, and Number 1. And most of the numbers, they weren't really hard to deal with. I mean, I think most of them got one-shotted. So it's interesting that Apoo is actually picking a fight with Number 1. Honestly, I don't think Apoo would have any problem taking him down. It's kind of unfortunate, though, too, because Apoo just, I don't know, for whatever reason, he just, spends his time burning bridges. Like, I don't think he understands the concept of trust at all. So somebody needs to teach it to him. We get a brief moment with Usopp where he pretty much reinstates the promise that he made to Izo about saving Kinemon and Kiku. And honestly, my gut tells me that Usopp has a lesson to learn. I feel like there has to come a moment, like a Wano moment for him. Something that puts them in the path for more growth. And I feel like it has to happen before the arc ends. Because I think that he needs to learn something so that he can get ready to go to Elbaf. What that moment will be for him, I'm not sure. But a possibility that crossed my mind was like, well, what if he actually doesn't save them? What if he actually has to witness the death of Kiku and Kinemon? I think that would be interesting, because I think that would sort of force him to begin facing his fear of death. And it would also kind of serve to help him sort of reevaluate himself in the face of death. We go to Frankie running around with a fainted Zoro. He's trying to find Chopper to help Zoro. And I think it's cool how like Sasaki's armored squad is following Frankie now. So maybe these are going to be Frankie's new followers. Maybe Frankie will have his own armored squad that will follow him even after he leaves Wano. And so Raizo gets his moment of shine, and it takes us back when he was in Zou by himself. So he noticed Sunisha bathing itself, and he was like, wow, that's a lot of water. I'll probably store it in one of my scrolls and use it in case a giant castle catches fire in the future, just like in my traumatic past. I like the fact that Raizo could have used this water during his fight against Fukurokuju, but he didn't when he was burning alive. So yeah, he kind of took one for the team. And then this also takes us back to chapter 1041, where Jinbei runs into him, and Raizo tells him that the preparations are complete. So this is what he was talking about. So Raizo releases his water scroll, his water jutsu, and then Jinbei grabs it, grabs the current, and performs the Fishman Jujutsu Ocean Current Shoulder Throw, or Ipponzai! That's right, using the water of Zou, Father Jinbei is able to wash away all of the sins of Onigashima to prepare for Holy Week. Then again, we get a panel of Chopper near the end, and the background in that panel is still on fire. So I'm still not sure if like the water still needs to get to that area or if it just wasn't enough. Regardless though, Yamato tells Momonosuke that he still has a part to play in this. Now I'm not really sure if Momonosuke is going to be able to produce fire clouds that are strong enough to hold up the island. But I remember that he was able to spam sort of smaller clouds, around the island. So I came up with an alternative. What if Momonosuke can create clouds for everybody to get on, to fly away, or to sort of just levitate on and just stay there, just fly on the clouds and then land peacefully peacefully. Like, get them peacefully to the ground, and then Luffy can use his awakening on the rock, on the actual island, and turn it into rubber, essentially. Have it bounce back or something. That way nobody gets hurt. You evacuate the people inside with Momonosuke's help, and then Luffy protects the flower capital by turning things to rubber. We get this final shot of Luffy coming out of this thundercloud, looking like Raijin, the god of thunder, the Japanese god of thunder. And it kind of reminded me of the panel that we got with him last week, where he comes out of this lightning cloud, giant-sized. Only here he's actually grabbing a lightning bolt with his hand. So it reminds me of Strong World 2, where Usopp kind of shoots a lightning dragon up to a cloud, and then Luffy uses Gear 3rd to absorb the lightning into his attack. So the image obviously takes me back to Skypiea as well, where we find out that Luffy is immune to Enel's attacks because he's made out of rubber, so he doesn't conduct electricity. But then also Enel was called or known as a god in Skypiea, right? But then Luffy is also a god now. He's Sun God Nika, or the fire god, as mentioned by Hyogoro. So in Avatar The Last Airbender, Iroh says to Zuko that lightning is actually firebending in its purest form. So I'm actually curious if like Luffy's going to be able to bend lightning itself, you know, just kind of tell it where to go and just sort of like have it move like his rubber arm, you know, just kind of like direct the lightning wherever he wants it. And again, I think this kind of supports the idea of like Luffy eventually getting like a Logia type awakening with his fruit as well, because he already has a Paramecia type awakening and a Zoan type awakening. And I've seen people saying that the steam cloud that goes around Luffy's shoulders kind of reminds them of the same design or the same sort of feature that Shirahoshi has with her design, which makes sense because Shirahoshi is Poseidon, right? Poseidon is like the god of the sea. So you got two god figures with those sort of loops around their shoulders, around their back. Kind of gets me to think about this girl right here that will be featured in film Red. Like, I'm wondering if she has some connection to Uranus, because Uranus is the god of the sky, and she obviously has a sky theme, so I'm wondering if Oda's actually willing to drop some ancient weapon info in the movie. That's pretty much going to do it for me today. I mean, the chapter is called Raizo, which is fine. It's a fine chapter. It's just I'm not sure what else to talk about. Water's good. Everybody should drink water. It's healthy. One of the things that I've been learning to practice recently is to sort of like learn to take it easy. Because I feel like before, sometimes I would overanalyze things. I would overthink. And I feel like this chapter allowed me to take a step back and just sort of like take it easy. Because if you're going to take it easy, you might as well take it easy with a chapter named Raizo. Also, I remember Oda saying in an SBS that though he knows that One Piece YouTubers exist, and that, you know, they tend to be very detailed in their analysis, he says that for him it's dangerous to think of his entire audience, you know, at that level. Because he says that he also has to think about like the more casual readers, the people that just pick up the magazine, you know, go to the bathroom with it, read it on the toilet, and then just put it down, right? People that don't overthink things, people that just kind of like read the chapter and just like go about their day. So sometimes we do get chapters that are specifically written for the hardcore fans, the ones that really, you know, just look into every detail and theorize and speculate and all that stuff. But then we also get chapters that are a lot more simple, that are just there for more casual readers, that are there to get you from point A to point B within the story. And that's why there are One Piece YouTubers that don't review every single chapter, because not all the chapters are going to satisfy that craving for One Piece lore or depth. That being said, I do have a question. And this is a question that is going to sort of ask us to be very, very honest with ourselves. So the question is, how far in advance do you guys think that Luffy having the Nika fruit was planned out? Because here's the thing. Deep down, like I always knew, and I think a lot of us always knew that Luffy was going to end up being someone special, right? Because he's the protagonist of a shonen manga, right? Point blank. So we knew that Luffy was going to be special in some way, shape, or form from the beginning, okay? That's not the question. The question is, was his fruit always supposed to be special? Because technically speaking, you can have a character that's very special in their own way, in their own right, without having their devil fruit power be special, without having their devil fruit belong to a mythical god. But I guess a follow-up question to that would be, okay, let's say that Luffy was, you know, a normal Paramecia user. You know, that's all fine and dandy, but if that's the case, then how can I make my protagonist, how can I make Luffy defeat Kaido, who's an absolute monster, in a believable way? Because again, I do remember Oda saying at one point, even before Wano started, that he honestly didn't know how Luffy was going to be able to defeat Kaido, but that he knew that he needed to come up with a way that would be believable for the readers. So I wanted to take advantage of this chapter as well to ask this question, because you can kind of feel that the hype for Gear 5th or for Luffy's awakening is beginning to set. When the hype is really, really high, like, people can't think objectively, right? It's all based on emotion. But now that we've had a little bit more time to process things, it's like, okay, we can think a little bit more rationally, more objectively about what this means and how this was established. And if I'm being honest, like, I think you can make arguments for and against, and those people wouldn't necessarily be wrong on either camp. Because ultimately, like, the only one who knows the truth is Oda, and probably his editors. But I do think it's important that we think about this and sort of reflect on it and come up with our own conclusions. Because, as I said before, Luffy's awakening is a game changer moving forward. I typically prefer chapters that are more focused on one specific scene, but I think it was necessary to get all these little updates, you know, from Brook and Robin, the rest of the Straw Hats. We even saw Killer there being carried after his fight with Hawkins, so at least we know what's going on with him. So it was necessary. This chapter was necessary. Am I the only one who thinks that Luffy's hand in that final panel where he's grabbing the lightning looks a little bit different? Like, it looks like he has some kind of like rectangular glove on or something. Just like rectangles on his fingers. I really like how Kaido is smiling up at him though. It's kind of like, finally, a guy worth fighting. So both of these characters are having a blast fighting each other, which kind of reduces the tension a little bit, but at the same time, I think it's going to help Kaido resolve his character arc. So the fight will serve to get him some much needed closure. And that is going to do it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all of your support, everything you do, commenting, liking, subscribing. I really appreciate it. Again, I'm learning to sort of take it easy on myself. I hope you are too. I think we all deserve that sort of like self-compassion. So yeah, just wanted to share that with you. Take care. I'll catch you guys later. Bye.